Before we start today's episode, Broncos Country, a little preseason sub battle update just for you. We are still 10 behind the Kansas City Chiefs, albeit we have completely gained up to them, and we've gained a significant amount of subscribers. So before we get to our very first preseason game, which is in the middle of August, I need you to hit that subscribe button, lock us in for free Broncos content all season long. You know football's back when ESPN starts projecting 53-man rosters for each of the 32 NFL teams, and the Broncos just so happen to be one of those teams in the NFL. Welcome in Broncos Country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and yes, ESPN projected the full Broncos 53-man roster, but surprisingly, I at least read between the lines. I looked at the guys that they left out, and they left out a couple of surprising names. So, today's episode is going to be cut candidates for the Broncos. 4, to be exact, surprise cut candidates, which we'll get into here in just a moment. Now, the first couple of ones, pretty easy stuff. Bo Nix ain't getting cut, neither is Jarrett Stidham. I know that technically the Broncos have Sam Ehlinger on the roster right now, but truthfully, I think the Broncos are going to ride with 2 active quarterbacks. They're going to end up moving Sam Ehlinger to the practice squad and then call him up if he needs to come up in a pinch. So I can't really consider that to be a surprise cut candidate. But let's go to the running backs. R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin. There's a fullback listed right there, Michael Burton. So who's been left off this list? Well, leading into our first surprising cut candidate, Tyle Badie. Now, Badie didn't see the field much last year. I don't know why, but he didn't put up the greatest of numbers when he was on the field because, frankly, he didn't touch the ball that much. He only had 12 touches total for 110 total yards. He did score 1 touchdown. But outside of that, he didn't see the field much. But Badie is really good in pass protection. So he does offer some upside for the Broncos running back room. In fact, outside of Badie, he might be the best one out of all of them. There is one big problem, though. J.K. Dobbins is also a very good pass protector. And he's a better player. So Badie could be your first Broncos surprise cut candidate because of the addition of J.K. Dobbins. Now moving on to the wide receivers. Again, you're not going to see much crazy stuff here. Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Devaughn Vele, Pat Bryant, Trent Sherfield. Nothing really to write home about, so we're going to move on to the tight ends. Then you have Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, Lucas Krull, Nate Adkins. Another name left off the list. It's a rookie, actually. Caleb Lohner, coming in as the next surprising cut candidate. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you cut a rookie that hasn't made the team yet? Well, technically, you can cut any player that's signed a contract. If they have put pen to paper, they are a part of the roster. So Caleb Lohner is technically on the team right now, albeit he hasn't made the 53-man roster. So if he were to get cut, the Broncos could end up bringing him back to the practice squad. Now, they would end up having to put him on waivers, and if he got picked up by another team, then sayonara. But if nobody picks him up, they could bring him back to the practice squad and just let him develop his talents and his skill, being he's not really a football player quite yet, right? Basketball player turned football player, got the freakish athletic traits that everybody loves. So Lohner is technically a cut candidate on this list because he didn't even make the 53, according to ESPN. I should at least also point out here that before everybody comes to slaughter me in the comments section, these are ESPN's projections. So ESPN listed all of these players. I'm just telling you who they left out. So do you agree with ESPN's list so far? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to say it's not the worst, but it's also not the best. Let's go to the offensive line. Again, pretty standard, pretty straightforward. You're not going to see, anything crazy here. 9 guys for the Broncos offensive line that end up making the 53-man roster. I don't think there's anything wrong with this whatsoever. I was really hoping that you wouldn't see anybody like, Matt Pert off this list. But luckily, ESPN at least now gave some continuity there for the Broncos offensive line. We should move on now to the defense because this is where the other two come into play for surprising cut candidates, one of them being the most shocking on this list. So let's get into that here in just a moment. Now, before I do that, I do have to tell you guys all about our amazing sponsor at Fanatics. And we have this draft hat that is leaving very, very soon. So if you want to go out and wear the Broncos hat that all of the 2025 NFL draft picks wore for the Broncos, you can do it with this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video, chatsports.com/Denver Draft. Again, it's not this super cool blackout hat, which I love, by the way. Shout out to my dad who bought this for me. But this is also a really sweet hat. So it is leaving. And if you want to get it, you use this link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video, but they also have a bevy of products that you can choose from as well. Let's go to the defensive line. Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, Malcolm Roach, and Ayoma Uwazurike. Again, no real issues with this, so we're going to move right past the defensive line. Here's where we start to get a little bit crazy. The edges. Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, Savion Jones, and Q Robinson are listed as your edges. Now, I do want to point out this. Most of these guys are listed as linebackers on the depth chart, but they play like edges. So does another player that was left off of this list. Dondrea Tillman doesn't make the 53 according to ESPN. What? You do realize that coming out of the USFL just a year ago and finding his way onto an NFL roster is in and of itself incredibly impressive. But more so than that, when he was on the field, he was really good. So I'm not so sure that I buy that. I'm not so sure that, he's going to be one of those players that doesn't make this roster. Tell me why Q Robinson gets that nod when he's most likely going to be a special teams player. So I'd put back Dondrea Tillman based off of what he did in 2024. He played in 12 games and made the most of what he was able to do when he was on the field. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, he's actually a linebacker, so you can't really put him with the edges. Like I said, you're arguing semantics at this point because they're not technically listed as edge. They're listed as linebackers. I'm not sure that edge is technically a legitimate position in the NFL. You can call everybody a linebacker or a defensive end. But we'll call them edges because they specifically get after the quarterback. Either way, Peyton and Joseph glowed over Tillman. They had such great things to say about him. They love his tenacity. They love his high motor. They love the skill set that he brings. He might not be the biggest, fastest, strongest, or most technically sound player out of all of the Broncos' edges, but what he does offer is that heart that you're looking for and proven productivity. So why you'd keep him off this list, I will never know. But that's what ESPN listed. So there's your third surprising cut candidate from ESPN. Moving on to the linebackers. Dre Greenlaw, Alex Singleton, Justin Stranad, and Drew Sanders. You could also lump Dondrea Tillman in with the linebackers as well. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but these are the four right now, no issues with. Then we move on to the corners. Pat Surtain, Jahdae Barron, Jaquan McMillan, Riley Moss, and Chris Abrams-Drain. There's another name that you've probably seen quite a bit of times if you're a Broncos fan over the last couple of years that isn't on this list. Our last one, Damarri Mathis. Not making the 53 according to ESPN. Now, I wanted to do a little bit more here in terms of a deep dive as to why I believe and why other outlets that cover the Broncos believe that Damarri Mathis wouldn't make the 53 in 2025. Here's what they said about his play in 2024 from the Mile High Report. There are a lot of things that could have been said about his 2024 season, and some of them are positive. He did not play at all in the first 6 games due to the starting the season injured, and then played some on both defense and special teams throughout the most of the rest of the season. Vance Joseph was willing to use Mathis in select situations, especially against certain opponents like the Panthers, the Colts, and the Chargers. He amassed 80 defensive total snaps on the year as a whole, and was targeted 6 times with 1 completion and 3 tackles. This is the one that I can most likely see happening out of all of these. And the reason I say that is because the Broncos clearly wanted to go and make this cornerback room even stronger. So you're looking at right now a rotation of either Jahdae Barron, who you took in the first round, or Jaquan McMillan, who is a far better player than Damarri Mathis. I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall. No, I know what you're thinking. Depth, depth, depth. Well, at this point, anybody can be a depth piece and have the next man up mentality. So they went with Chris Abrams-Draine. It's just one of those things, like, if you're not playing that great and you start off injured, if you don't make it, that's the game. It's just the way it is. So Surtain, Barron, McMillan, Moss, and Abrams-Draine, I have no problems with this. And I do wish Damarri Mathis the best of luck if he ends up getting cut. We'll see what happens after training camp, and we'll see when the roster cutdowns come and the 53 is released. But right now, this is what ESPN predicts. Final group on the defense, the safeties. Brandon Jones, Talanoa Hufanga, P.J. Locke, J.L. Skinner, and Delarrin Turner-Yell. I don't have any problems with this. I did note that Sam Franklin Jr. is not on this list, the free agent that the Broncos signed earlier this year from Carolina. But again, he was a kind of last-minute signing, kind of a player that hasn't really done a whole lot in his career, just more of a depth piece for the Broncos. So again, I'm not going to argue these depth pieces being cut or why they should or should not be cut, as long as it's not a guy like P.J. Locke, who I believe can actually add some solid reps as a depth player. Then the special teams, Will Lutz as your kicker, Jeremy Crawshaw as your punter, and Mitchell Fabroni coming in at long snapper, which, again, you're not going to complain about anything special teams related from ESPN. And that is your 53-man roster projection from the worldwide leader in sports. So do me a favor, grade it. 53-man roster projection, take out your red pen. A, B, C, D, or F. B, C+, somewhere in that. I'm going to say solid B- or a B. I didn't think it was too bad, with some obvious issues here with Dondrea Tillman not making the roster. But you know what? Hey, it's not my call. I'm not there at the ESPN headquarters writing these articles. That will do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to help us beat the Chiefs in our preseason sub battle. Like the video if you haven't. And as always, be cool.